what part did accountability play in your journey of recovery and sobriety and becoming the man that God has called you to be?
The accountability part of it was always a blind side for me. I didn't know that speaking with other men and being accountable to other men in this journey that we're on in recovery was such a big part of it. And each week when I would sit and listen to you guys' stories and you'd listen to mine, and we would all laugh and smile, maybe cry, it took a weight off of my shoulders. And I think that was the same thing was happening, through the group. Because we were finally able to talk about things in our life, emotions, sharing all the things that we've been ashamed to get into with other men. I had lots of friends, but they were men that you could ride next to in a golf cart and talk about football and sports and maybe family and that sort of thing, but very rarely get into anything too deep other than that. And in this group, we were able to talk about reality, talk about how we'd failed, talk about successes we had. And you'd walk out of there going, why is it that I feel so much better? Because you could really I think, this is the model that God, and I think even Jesus with his 12 apostles was to have other men keeping each other accountable. And it was the missing piece for me that I just had never had. I thought I could do this by myself, and I wanted to do it by myself way back when because I felt like I'm never talking about this to any other guy. I will figure this out, and I tried that year after year, and did not have the success that I've had in the last 8+ years because I finally found other men that I would pour out my challenges with and listen to theirs. And just by doing that, it would be magically let go at that door, and you could walk away and say, I think I have hope now, one day at a time.
Is it weird being part of that kind of group? I know, is it weird going to a group and sharing your heart? Because it's not a normal thing to do. We don't, I have friends outside the group, and I don't just start talking about my problems and my addictions with them because it will make them uncomfortable. And but I know there's 9, 10 guys in our group that I can just walk in and I can just, just spit everything out, and it'll be a total normal environment. How was that for you? What was that? What was the process?
Yeah, it was exactly, I guess weird is probably a great term for it. Uncomfortable initially. I had, at that time, 25 years of sobriety and gone to other 12-step programs. So I had the knowledge of how you could share.
Alcohol.
Yes, with the alcohol. And so I had the knowledge and kind of experience of how to share that and share your, your past challenges with other people. They could be male, females, et cetera, big groups of different people that had gone through that. So I had a little bit of understanding of it, but I never tied into how that could work with this issue. And certainly the first time I ever walked into a group meeting like that, it was very odd. Anxiety there to kind of say, I'm going to be talking about things I've never shared at the time in 50+ years, with any other man. And so it took a kind of a leap of faith, I think. But I had been shown, that this meeting was available by the guy that was my counselor for a few years. And he said, I really think that's the missing piece for you. And I trusted him. And I think that really was a big help.
Yeah, I'm glad that you trusted him because, when you came into the group, I was already in the group for about 2 months.
Right.
But I was a totally different David. This is you're talking to a different David.
I know that. Yeah.
And that journey started. I'm just going to interject here a little with you and I. We not that we became buddies or friends, but we started talking. But you would always not confront me. That wouldn't be the right word. You'd always challenge me because the group is very there's a lot of love in that group. People love and respect each other. It's built on love. But you would start poking at me, David. Hey, what about this? Why aren't you sharing this? Why aren't you sharing this with your wife? Why aren't you being vulnerable? And I just started developing this almost I literally started developing a hate towards you. Man, freaking Ron. But over time, as God started peeling things off me and just working on my heart, and I still remember the day when I came home, and I'm it was a 50-50. It was a 50-50 chance, because you were David, you got to come clean before your wife, Irina. You got to tell the whole story. Hey, you got to tell her the whole story and what you've been doing, whatever you've been sharing in the group. You got to share it with your wife, and I knew it was a 50-50 chance that she'll stay or she'll, leave me. And you were like the biggest supporter. Hey, David, what's going to happen if you don't? Like, you're going to keep living this life. So you're like the guy who motivated me and challenged me to become the man that God has called me to be. And because the fact that we're sitting here is, it's because of you. And I give that credit to you and to God. I mean, God used you to like make me a better and a stronger man. And I really do appreciate that. But that love and hate relationship, as you were talking about how, it's not normal for us to share and to be vulnerable with other men, but that's what we do in our, our accountability group. But that healing started happening in my life and in your life. Let's talk more about what is healthy accountability? Like, how do you see? Because there's people that say, "Hey, I could do this by myself. Yeah. I don't need other men. I can just take God and I can do it by myself, and I'll take care of this." What does healthy accountability look like?
Okay. Yeah, and that thing about God, just saying, "Hey, God," and I can't tell you, and I know with all the men I've spoken with over the years that we all have a lot of that same story that says, I prayed to God, I asked God, will you take this temptation away from me? Will you clear my life up of this so that I can just move on and nobody will have to be the wiser? And I used to think, he's not hearing me. He's not listening to me. And then only when I began to do the group process, sometime into that, did I realize, oh, he said, I'm pushing you towards, sharing this with other people. I'm pushing you to be part of an accountability with other men. And when you do that, I'll start doing what you're asking. And I only found that God began to work on me, with me, when it was through other men. And it just blew my mind that, wow, he hasn't been ignoring me. If I would have been willing to do this 10 years ago, he probably would have said, go for it.
Wow.
But I kept thinking like, no, I want a bolt of lightning to say you're cured, you're healed, move on. This won't ever have to be shared with anybody. That was just a period in your life. But the accountability part of it became like, hey, if I'm not willing to open up and share not just what my story is like we've done here, but what's happened today, what's happened this week, then I can start building that wall of secrecy back up again. And I have to do that. I can pray to God about it and ask for forgiveness, and I do believe he will do that. But I don't believe he works it that way with us not sharing it with other people. And I don't know why. I hope to ask him that someday. Instead of just, snapping his fingers and saying, you asked, I'm curing you. It didn't work that way for me. And I've found it very, very few men, if ever, that it does work that way with. So accountability is not only just being in a group once a week, because that gives you 6 days and 23 hours of time to do your own thing. In my mind, it's also about whether it's texting, phone calling, meeting, that my big energizer is meeting with people for breakfast, for lunch, for coffees, by phone on a weekly or daily basis if necessary. And I found that really helps cure my heart and keeps me honest, keeps me pure, if you will. And sometimes it's like the medicine that you don't want to keep taking because you want to get lazy. You don't want to do it. I don't. I won't speak for others. But it became a thing where, every time I'd leave from a meeting of coffee or time or a meeting with other guys and share that, I felt like, you know what, I've got the strength to do this again for this week. And people who shy away and fall away from doing that, it's almost a guarantee that they're going to get back into that lifestyle that they try to get away from. And everybody has a reason why that they do that, but it's almost like you can just see what's going to take place if they don't find a group of accountable men who can listen without judgment and who can laugh with you and cry with you, put their arms around you and tell you, hey, it's going to be okay. And that you can hear, hey, their story's a lot like mine. I can relate to that. And that's what it's all about. There's no magic. It's just that you're listening to other guys and going, yep, I know that exact feeling. And somehow that just helps cure what's going on inside of you. And you can move ahead for that week in a much better feeling and being in step with other people and more in step with God and the Holy Spirit, I think.